Hi, this is Razak, Senior Financial Contributor for YWO, and we're doing a weekly market recap for February 16th to February 20th of 2026. So looking at the market breakdown, really the market's consolidated almost across the board by almost every single sector. But let's break it down. So starting out with the forex symbols, we saw the US dollar gain inches versus the euro and the British pound. On the Canadian side, the Canadian dollar is on massive resistance, okay? Multi-year resistance, a very important key level. Now looking at the international markets, the major indices continue to consolidate. However, the Nikkei did slide, so that was one part of activity that we would have expected the rest of the markets to follow, but didn't. Now looking at the stocks, we saw the stocks really just wavering from side to side, but no major news and no major activity when it came to the stocks. So they consolidated as well following the major indices. Now looking at commodities, yes, oil did gain to a 6-month high, and so did gold, really advancing on geopolitics. We're going to get into that just moments. However, looking at cryptocurrencies, we saw Bitcoin just inching higher as well. So what's going on in the market? So a couple of things. Geopolitically, we are in a very interesting time as the showdown between the US and Iran continues and extends. There's just various kind of conspiracies as to what's going on there, okay? As the US did hold in Washington this past week what's called the Board of Peace, kind of bringing all the countries together and pressuring Iran into giving up its enrichment and so on and so forth. Now, this is all coming in the backdrop of many other factors as well, as the markets are resetting themselves. The markets internationally right now are resetting themselves as the United States is pulling away from being dependent on trade and imports from China and kind of coming back to the United States. Now that's going to take a transition and that's going to affect the US dollar. So we did see the US dollar continue to weaken, not per week basis, but in the larger scale, we've made a shift in the US dollar over the past 2 years. So keep that in mind as that continues to follow through. Now also geopolitically, the US is in somewhat of a turmoil with midterms coming up as to which direction is going to happen within the next administration. Now with that all said, we're in still a backdrop of war between Ukraine and Russia. That hasn't dissipated, that's still going on, and that's affecting the market. So yes, the geopolitics is affecting oil and gold. Now moving back into the economy, the US economy right now is in a specific shift. Is interest rates going to come down? That's the big question. And if it is going to come down, how much is it going to come down and how that's going to affect the markets moving forward? So with that all said, we're in limbo right now and we are moving into next month. We're going to start have corporate earnings. So with that all said, we're kind of just pacing ourselves and just holding ourselves before the market comes out with more indication as to which direction it wants to go. This is Razak. I wish you guys a beautiful weekend. Thank you.